Hello and welcome to the show. This week's FailRace versus the community, we were to go racing with E-Class Japanese cars. My Toyota Corolla was mighty impressive, off the line, making up a good 4 or 5 places before we ever even got to turn 1. Turn 1 here at the Catalunya National Circuit can at times be a little bit on the dodgy side. I was slightly stuck on the outside. Happy to do that though. My car was pretty damn good. Unfortunately, the poor MX-5 would not fare quite so well through the opening corners. I found myself, after all of the shenanigans, on the outside of an A86 boxed in by a Subaru Brat as we ran up towards the top of the hill. The Brat did not quite have the grip, caught out the poor Toyota, and trying to avoid him ended up off across the grass. I too had to take some avoiding action, finding myself across the chicane ever so slightly. That compromised my run out of the corner. The Datsun would be able to get up alongside of the run down towards the hairpin. The Brat was fighting with an RX-3 behind us. It was too wide. A couple of Brats arguing for position. Despite being stuck on the outside, my Corolla had fantastic amounts of drive over the hairpin that would keep it alongside and back past the Datsun. There also was a nice little car's width gap as the Subaru Brat just couldn't take the speed through some of these turns that the Corolla was able to manage, and despite a slightly scary two-wheeled moment, the Corollas are well known for being incredibly oversteery and incredibly easy to get up onto 2 wheels, and that was certainly the case with my car. I managed to get away with it though. The Subaru Brat not quite so much, ending up out wide through the very tight chicane. The Datsun would be following me through the order. Much glorious noise was being made by the Mazdas. The RX-3s and a couple of buzz boxes that were around were certainly noticeable in these races. This particular RX-3, carrying a lot of straight line speed, would breeze past an MX-5 and Subaru Brat on the way down into turn 1. But of course, the trade-off when you have that much straight line speed, well, you're not quite going to be having the handling and keeping it in E-Class, and sure enough, the RX-3 was struggling a little bit. The Brat tried to go around the outside of turn 2. You can get that manoeuvre to work. It tends to help if you don't run the car a little bit too wide and end up out across the sand trip, as the Brat would drop a couple of places in all of that, and the RX-3 would continue to try and catch the vehicles up ahead. My Corolla was mighty fast, actually, around this track. I'd got myself up into 4th place and was eyeing a podium spot of a Honda Civic. Further up ahead, 2nd place was to spin his car. I think ran a wheel across the curb and just spun the fair lady's head, which is why you'll see him on the infield. So this now became the battle for 2nd, with the Civic running a smidge wide. I again got an opportunity and was keen to take it, although the Honda, not quite done yet, was making things a little awkward going through the chicane. Had to give him space, compromised my line out of the turn. The Honda would get back alongside, but despite having to go the long way around at the final turn, there's no problem for the Corolla, as I would manage to keep the position and out-accelerate the cars behind me. You know, while none of these vehicles were massively fast in a straight line, the Corolla was a little bit faster than the cars around it, which was always nice, as the fair lady behind had a go around the outside of the Civic. It didn't quite work so well in towards the first corner. The big thing to watch out with these Corollas is that it is a lot more oversteer. You see it moving around a lot more than you would normally with one of my cars, and certainly if things went wrong, it could be quite a handful, probably a better way of putting it. Further back, the fair lady that had been fighting for the lead had rejoined and was trying to make progress back through the field, but got stuck down in traffic trying to find a way past a Datsun and then being caught by a Subaru Brat. The fair lady very, very fast through the corners, but was struggling a little bit with straight line speed. The Subaru Brat would get to the inside on the run down towards the first corner. Initially, then isn't thinking about going around the outside, changes his mind, cuts back to the inside on the exit of the corner, can carry so much more speed than the Subaru as they run up through this 2nd corner. That's how you go around the outside of turn 2. The Subaru forced to take such a tight line, you just can't carry any momentum coming up the hill. And in these cars, momentum was rather important, seeing as none of them had a huge amount of power. Further back, this was the fight for about 18th place in the race. It didn't really matter where you were, and that's kind of half the fun of these sort of cars. It doesn't really matter what position it was that you were fighting over. you always had cars to be racing against, which certainly to me at least, it makes the most fun racing, as this Buzzbox was trying, looking every which way he could to get a pass done on the Subaru Brat. Gets a good run across the top of the hill. Now we're going to go too wide. This is not a place you really want to be going too wide into the chicane. It's a very, very fast corner, almost flat out. When you haven't got a car alongside you, you've got to be so careful trying to fit two cars through that corner. They make it through, though. The Celica was a little bit slow off the corner. The RX-7 thought about getting to the inside, is slightly scuppered, though, as the Subaru gets a huge two-wheeled moment across the curbs. The curbs around here aren't the worst curbs you will find in Forza, but yeah, you definitely were aware of them in a couple of vehicles. A couple of the RX-3s found each other and then proceeded to have a very, very noisy battle for position as they run through the chicane up towards the hairpin now. The red RX-3, the slightly faster of the two in a straight line, but just wasn't quite as good through the corners. The yellow car found, I didn't even think there was a gap to find on the inside there, but he certainly made the most of it, getting the vehicle to the inside. Just couldn't quite get the move done, but again, as the red car was struggling to carry speed, once more the yellow vehicle was there to find the tiniest of gaps and get the pass done. At the front, and as we came onto the final lap, my Corolla had been flying and I caught up to the back of the leader, who goes very, very defensive out to the top of the hill, makes himself very slow off the corner. I spot my opportunity to get alongside, but as I said before, when you're trying to go too wide through that very high-speed chicane, both of you are going to end up compromised. You've both got to be very, very careful, and the AE86 could keep hold of the position. Once more, I found myself on the outside of the hairpin. I'd seen how good the Corolla had been accelerating off of that turn. I knew if I could keep my car alongside, I'd be on the inside for this next corner, and trying to go the long way around at this turn is very, very hard to do, and the AE86 just does not quite have enough grip. And then on a very wrong line for the next corner, I end up out a bit wide and slow off the corner, having to go very defensive, pretty much park my Corolla on the inside for the first part. The A86 throws his car across the curb, trying to get to the inside, but in doing so, you lose so much momentum and speed that he can't quite hold it. The Datsun had caught up massively, saw how much just half a lap battle between us slowed us down. The Datsun was right there, but didn't have the speed to make the most of it. I would take victory with the AE86 in second, Datsun coming home in third. A fantastically close final lap, that one. Fourth place we go to a Toyota 2000 GT, just up ahead, had quite a lonely race. Fifth, though, was to go right down to the wire, with the Honda Civic desperately trying to fend off a Subaru Brat, and while the Civic can hold his own around the inside of the final turn, it doesn't matter. The Brat gets a better drive and has just better acceleration and straight line speed as they run up towards the line. Incredibly close. Incredibly close between the two vehicles. I had to go and have a look at a photo finish for these, and even then it's just ridiculoly hard to differentiate between them. The game gave it to the Subaru, but as you can see, it is not by very much at all, really. Well, I have seen from previous races experience that it is when the front wheels that cross the line, that is when Forza counts the car as finished as opposed to the bumper. But as you can see here, there is very little difference to pick between them. Unfortunately, second week in a row, Race 2 replay would have problems. The lobby sort of disconnected everyone while we were trying to save the replay, so nobody could get a replay saved. It was a shame because it was an absolutely fantastic race. There was a three-way battle for the lead in that one. It would go to my Corolla. I would take victory in the second round as well. It is a shame because, yeah, the Race 2 was fantastic fun, but what can we do when Forza replays are being a bit dodgy? We did have a few connection issues as well this evening, which probably didn't help. However, race number 3, we would head to the Lime Rock circuit. We were also going for a quick stop in this one, so one mandatory pit stop. We're probably going to have one race per sort of versus community that will have a quick stop in it. The leader was managing to make a lovely getaway in this one, pulled a huge lead on this opening lap while the rest of us fought for position. This Nissan Silvia was having a look for a way past an MX-5, and as the Mazda just ran a little bit wide out of a corner. Again, when you saw that car's width, especially in vehicles like these, you really had to go for it. The Silvia did get the position and then immediately threw it away on the final turn, ran a little bit too hot out wide, and the Mazda would reclaim his second place. I had started well down the order, been shuffled about a bit, so had a lot of work to do with my Corolla. Getting past, though, a 200SX as we run now down towards the final corner. A Brat and a Civic were having a fight, no problem for me. I was perfectly happy to go around the outside of the Subaru. The Civic would be the first car in the race to dive into the pits, and a number of other cars would opt for the early pit stop, try to get them out of traffic so they could run around in clean air. I didn't have that option. I knew there was a Civic on the inside. I didn't know if he was coming in or not, so I had to stay out regardless of what I would have wanted to have done. So I found myself still stuck in the battles. You see a Corolla wiggling its way all over the place. I nicknamed this the car with the wiggly tail because, especially at Hockenheim, the race that you won't see, there was a lot of sideways action going on from the Toyota. Up ahead, there was an A86 wheel across the curb, wheel of the grass, just about manages to keep it on track, but once more, there was an opportunity that I was keen to take it again. The Datsun braked a tad too late, left a car's width on the inside. I was more than happy to relieve him of his position. I would then dive into the pits. Again, I was under the sort of the impression going for this early stop, get it out of the way and running clean air would be a good idea. Problem is, too many of us had this idea. The Civic that I've been side by side with coming around the final turn, well, as I left the pits, we were once more side by side. The Toyota on the inside. I really wanted to get my car across so I could defend the inside. I really didn't want to have to battle. However, that was not to be the case. The Honda would get the position as the Corolla still wanting to move about an awful lot across the road. Basically, too many of us had the same idea in this race, to pit early, to try and get clean air, and then when everybody does it, you all end up fighting one another anyway, as I would get a better run coming up the hill, could get my Corolla to the inside for the next corner. The Civic would try to make it around the outside. I get a big slide, bouncing my way across the curb. Civic try to cut back, maybe get up the inside into the final turn. He does stick his nose up there, but can't quite get it far enough alongside. Then he has a big moment across the curbs. Yeah, not quite what you want to be doing. As more and more cars came through and filtered through their pit stops, I would get a move done on the Silvia up ahead. These two Toyotas were going to be racing each other for the entire day. They both came in for pit stops on lap 1 with very, very quick cars. But once more, as I said, coming in so early and trying to stay out of traffic, they all found each other in traffic as they're all trying to get alongside one another. Silvia was struggling a little bit for pace around here as the two Toyotas go to the inside. It's going to be 3 wide almost into the first corner. The Silvia kind of knows that he doesn't stand a chance in this one as the two cars bumping their way through the first corner. The white vehicle does have the advantage, but just leaves the door open. Would have been better off covering that inside. The grey car spots the opportunity, and once more, and when you're driving cars like these, they're all relatively evenly matched, evenly paced. As soon as you see an opportunity, you kind of got to go for it, even with cars getting pushed slightly wide, running across the curb. Still, the grey car isn't giving up for this position as they're going to run side by side up the hill. Being stuck on the outside there is not the pleasantest of experiences, but he makes it work and would get the position. And that whole sort of lap battle brought the Nissan and Civic right back into contention for this position, and a 200 had joined in as well at the front. And while everyone was making early pit stops, the top 3 were enjoying some nice clean air, running around outside of trouble. Definitely in this race you would have been much better off waiting, just leaving your pit stop till later on in the race. I dived in on lap 2 because I saw a whole heap of cars ahead of me and didn't really want to fight with them, but yeah, it would have probably been better for me to stick out there for longer, because yeah, the leaders were enjoying some lovely clean air, while the rest of us, who all pitted relatively early, were very much fighting amongst ourselves. This Datsun and a Toyota 2000 GT were another couple of vehicles. Again, you can see the field was relatively close. Perhaps not quite as many huge groups as we'd seen at Catalonia, but still lots and lots of vehicles close to one another. The Toyota, having got to the inside, couldn't quite capitalise with the run up the hill. The Datsun wasn't giving up, trying to go the long way round. The Toyota was, I think, got a little bit of a twitch halfway around the corner, had to dab on the brakes. That would allow the Datsun to hold it quite a long way around the outside, but the Datsun immediately throws it away into the final corner, runs in again, just carrying too much speed. And if you have to shrug off that speed so as not to end up on the grass, you lose so much momentum. In cars like these, you're going to probably lose a place. And sure enough, the Toyota would come past as a Celica leaves the pit lane to rejoin in the middle of the battle. As you can see up ahead with the groups of cars. Yeah, the early pit stops really did not pay off particularly well for any of us at the front, and the MX-5 in second place was gradually catching up towards the leader as the laps started to tick down as we run down to the first corner. Probably one of your best overtaking spots around this track. Line Rock, lots of sort of medium speed corners. As we dive under brakes, the Nissan, I think, perhaps slightly misses his braking marker, ends up out a little bit wide again. There is a car width. The MX-5 is going to say thank you very much and put his vehicle there. And the Silvia just couldn't quite hold on to the back of the MX-5. They were both being caught ever so slightly by the RX-3 in third as well. This was the large groups of cars fighting as the pit stop cycled through. Of course, as cars kind of dropped back into these battles, they got considerably more vicious for positions. The Silvia, once more ending out a little bit wide, would lose a place to the Celica. This multicoloured Celica was trying to find a way past the Civic as they round the final corner. Again, no cars were massively or significantly faster in a straight line. The Celica and Civic here very evenly matched the Toyota to the inside of turn one. As I said, one of your better overtaking opportunities, but you've got to be careful not to run too deep as the Celica does. The Honda will go for a cutback. Now, if you can keep it around the outside, if you can get to the inside for the next turn, you might be doing okay, but the Celica just ran in a little too deep to the first corner. Would allow the Civic to do a very nice cutback to regain his position, and you've got to immediately be aware of the couple of cars behind you. At the front, and as they were on their penultimate lap, the leaders would all come into the pits, having enjoyed their relatively quiet time at the front of the field. The MX-5, the Silvia, and the RX-3 all pitting, along with fourth place as well, all pitting on this lap. Now, the pit lane here is a little bit of an awkward one to get into. You've got to be careful not to go sort of flying flat out into the pit lanes, because you're never quite sure if your pit stall might be the first one. Unfortunately, what that meant for the poor MX-5, who was a little bit more cautious than the cars behind, is he would lose a place to the Silvia through the slightly glitchy world of Forza pit lane physics. The poor MX-5 would lose his hard-earned lead, and with a big slide through turn one, probably not helped by the curbs down there, the Silvia would maintain that lead. The MX-5 pushing him hard through these opening corners, but just couldn't quite get the vehicle alongside. A little bit unfortunate, most definitely. I feel sorry for the MX-5 in this one, as that is how the race order would finish, with the Silvia going on to take victory, the MX-5 in second place with the RX-3 in third. Definitely much better off this one to leave it a lot later for your pit stops. He kept you out of a lot more of the battles. This was the fight that was going on for 21st place in this race. Again, much as we'd seen at Catalonia, wherever you were in the grid, once the pit stops had all sorted themselves out, the Datsun going around the outside of the Subaru on the final corner to get 22nd just wasn't quite close enough to do anything about the RX-3 as they go across the line. That was the end of the replay. As that was it for the race. Yeah, wherever you were in these races, they were good fun. And this is why I love racing E-Class cars. They're just so much fun to go racing with. Even if you're not fighting at the front. I mean, in that one, the Lime Rock one, I was down in sort of 6th, 7th place for a lot of it, squabbling with whatever car. Unfortunately, a bit laggy around me. That's why I didn't see so much of my car that one. Yeah, a bit of dodgy replay going on. But, wherever you were in these races, you had somebody to race with. And that's the fun. Certainly to me, that's the fun of E-Class racing. Both the first and second races, we had the top three cars separated by less than a second. That is the kind of action you get with E-Class cars. My Corolla was good fun, actually. Quite an oversteery car, much more oversteery than I'd be used to. However, it was a very, very quick vehicle. I was pleasantly surprised by the Toyota, and it didn't try and murder me too many times by rolling over. However, that is it for this week's video. The next FailRace versus the community shall take place on Thursday, the 9th of June, we are going to go racing with B-Class cars fitted with the Turbo Rally engine. Any car that can have a Turbo Rally engine can be used. I would not recommend using a front-wheel drive car. It's not very likely to work. Turbo Rally and front-wheel drive cars do not tend to work, be drivable pretty much. But yeah, whichever car that can be fitted with a Turbo Rally engine, you are welcome to use. But that is it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.